And the day came when the risk to remain tight in a bud was more painful than the risk it took to blossom. This quote peeled out to me from a mess of graffitied walls. It was on the bathroom door of Churchill's pub in Miami, July 2011, the year and the month that I decided to change my life. I took the risk to go abroad with my measly $700 and I flew with a one-way ticket 7,000 miles away to a country with a culture that I knew nothing much about other than they ate kimchi. And I never even ate kimchi till I got there. These days, where I'm at in life, I no longer identify with these terms like survivor of abuse or victim of abuse, because I'm healed. And I don't say this from a condescending place. I've learned a lot in these 12 years. Forever learning. How about yourself? Do you like to be a lifelong learner? Sometimes we have our days where we feel defeated. And sometimes we go through exponential growth that just catches up. Sometimes sitting in the comfort zone becomes more painful than just taking the risk. That quote appeared to me all those years ago amongst bathroom walls and a door that were full of graffiti, the words of poets and artists and drunken people. And for some reason, it just darted right out. I jotted it down real quick on my sketchbook. Of course, I always carried a sketchbook in those days because I'm an artist. But I carried it around for another reason too. In that time, I'd log in all the advice people gave me, their words of wisdom, whether or not they seemed to be, to me. This was a habit, a chronic habit that I suffered from for many, many years, till I broke free from the shackles of it and connected more fully with my higher self. I was a shell of a woman, of a young woman, a shell of a girl, really. And I put everybody else's opinions and perspectives and judgments above my own because I lost all self-trust. Have you ever been there? Tell me where you're at in the comments below. I'd love to know. I'm at that turning point again in life, but in a completely different way. And no, not with cold plunge. Welcome to day 6 of cold plunge, of 31 days of cold plunging. If you've come along for the ride, or you're just tuning in, this is not just about me doing 31 days of cold plunging. I am combining this practice with some other topic of holistic health, which of course includes mind, body, soul, spirit. All of these things are interconnected. So welcome. The time has come for humanity to develop a more holistic mindset. Or else, really. Or else we're bypassing the connections of growth and healing. I was going to push the stop button because I'm running out of storage space. I have to upgrade to a phone that has more storage. But it's also that I need to take some time as I'm talking about this. And I didn't want this video to be boring. But even thinking that way is just BS. Because I just want to keep it real with you. I just want to talk to you like you're my friend. When I've gone back so far and edited these videos, at first I was really averse to filming these in the car like this, these different segments. And as I spliced them in and saw the final product along with the other pieces all composed together, the videos, it appealed to me. It was like a friend was talking to me, and I remembered these moments that I've had in different cars with people, heart to hearts. And so I know that I have a service to do in the world to share all that I've learned. I went back and I looked at a speech that I did 8 years ago, where I spoke that quote, and I talked about surviving abuse. I did many speeches around this, but I could not even remember what I said. This is so long ago. And I reviewed them, and I was astounded by just how much that I have learned since then and healed from. And so even though I'd love to go right into dating advice and relationship advice and some other topics, the core foundation of all of this is self-love. The first remedy for love addiction, for attachment trauma, for PTSD, for all of these mental illnesses and physical illnesses and spiritual illnesses is self-love. We must start with self-love. And even if we are going along in a Buddhist practice like myself, and we know that the self is just, it's a construct of the ego, it is very rare for a person to go from no self-esteem, for example, self-hatred, self-loathing, all of that, these lower frequency vibes that we must go through. That's the only natural progression to awaken. No shame. We must go through the shame, though. It is noted by some of my favorite Buddhists, Ajahn Brahm, Eckhart Tolle. They've both said it in different words. Some words I read 8 years ago, and others I just came upon this week while researching this a little more deeply. It is very rare for someone to go from no self-esteem, self-loathing, self-hatred to a sense of no self. To go past that is very hard. We must build ourselves up with healthy pride, with love, and then we can just be. We can become free of that because we just continue to just fill up our cup. And we know that it's the self it's this construct. We start to understand what we really are, our true nature, is awareness and presence. Awareness and presence. And so all of these practices, such as cold plunging, it involves being aware and present. It's not just about going and submerging there. We're also doing breath work before it and during it. And part of getting past trauma, of healing from it, of shedding it, of shaking it out is we must get out of the comfort zone. We have to get into the discomfort. And this is what sucks about victim consciousness when it gets its clutches on people. The ego, the inverted ego, or deflated ego, it could be called. It clings to these identities such as how bad we've struggled and how the lack of forgiveness, the resentments, it clings to them. And it wears the pain as a badge, the suffering as a badge. And rightfully so, though. I'm not here to judge that because I've been through it and it's part of the process. But I am here to say that it is us getting out of the comfort zone and sitting in it with consciousness, with presence and awareness, and dropping, letting go of the judgments as they come up. They'll come up. We align, we choose to align with what we want, with what we want our focus to be on. We choose in this moment that we're watching the trauma, that we're watching the panic attack right now, and we're sitting in love. Because I can guarantee you, if you choose to align with higher consciousness, it is always there with us. Our higher power, in my opinion, is the only one who truly experiences 100% empathy. And this means no projections. Many times people we think we're experiencing empathy, but it's actually projections of what we think and our baggage and what we think someone is imposing on us. And I'm going to talk about this more in another video. But our higher power, our higher self, which is the one who has already gone through what we've gone through, it's our future self. It's been there already. If we choose to align with it and sit in presence and awareness when these traumas come up, that is how we move past them. But it is not a matter of, I want to get rid of them. No, no, no. You cannot force that. It will happen naturally, and I cannot give you a timeline for it. It's an amazing time to live, in a sense, if you have been abused, because there are more tools than there ever were out there now. But I had to go in after a couple years and get a diagnosis of PTSD, which is different than CPTSD. I developed panic disorder. I was having a lot of flashbacks all the time. A lot of other things came from it. And so that was 2011 when I first was having these attacks. Well, actually, it happened in 2010, but I didn't know what it was when I was in a response often to abuse. So it was around, I think, 2012 where I went into the therapist's office and got a diagnosis of a few things. It wasn't my first visit to a therapist, but it was a diagnosis that gave me a label of what this condition was. And here we are. It's 12 years later, and I managed to shed it. But it happened incrementally, and then I was having exponential growth at certain points. And I was having a lot that was getting shaken out in 2018, 2019, 2020. And this is just this flavor of personal growth that I've gone through. I'd love to know if you relate. Please comment below. I want to know who is listening to these messages. I want to know what you've been through. Where have you progressed? And what are you still trying to heal with? Where would you like to be? What do you imagine yourself? Sometimes we don't even have a vision yet of what we want to be because we're so stuck in that mode. But it's okay to dream because we can get there. I got there. I am there. And so I know that any of these things that comes up, like yesterday, if you watched yesterday's video and I had a little meltdown, and I'm having one now too, a little bit. It really is nothing compared to what I've been through in the past. We earn our belts, or notches on our belt, or whatever. We can earn those. So naturally, even though I don't think of the past trauma and all of that because I'm not living in those states now, I think of it because I'm a healer, because I am a coach, a guide, a priestess to some. So it is at the forefront now for me, because the last stage for some of us of healing is to speak our story and to be of service to others. And this can be very difficult because it's difficult for a number of reasons. But you know what? Most of the reasons that come up, they're related to ego. The ego's judgments. What will people think of me? I want to look like a strong person. Now they're going to judge me because I've confessed I'm a professional dominatrix. I know people's image of that is someone who is strong and ball busting and all that. And that is a big part of me. But you know what? We have many parts. There are so many parts of us. And part of my healing involved integration of all these parts. And I can guarantee most likely that if you've gone through trauma of some kind, you too must do integration work. We'll talk about it in another video. I digressed a bit. Welcome to the show. I'm pretty good at that, but I'm going to try to do better at keeping it all together, making different videos on the topics. Before I take this cold plunge, before I start the breath work, going back to this quote. This quote is about expansion. We're blossoming, right? There are many people that stay in the fear and don't do anything with their lives, and we know about this. We could very well sit in the comfort zone of whatever it is. I could easily just stay in just doing dom work. But I know that I have been called to help for a bigger purpose. The whole time that I was burnt out and could not work, the universe still assigned me work. People came up to me. They often trauma dumped onto me, which I have been used to since I was a young girl, because that's what happens when you've been through enmeshment trauma sometimes. Your parents, your guardians dump a lot of their stories and their baggage onto you. And I've learned to have boundaries around this now. This was a new area of growth. But even though this kind of profession of healing, of helping, of being a coach, therapist, right? Guides, priests, priestesses. It's gonna be challenging, but the reward is so sweet, and I will take the medicine even if it's bitter too. It's so nourishing. Often there are so many herbs that we can take that are very nourishing. So I challenge you, I encourage you to meditate on this. Do you really want to stay stuck in that comfort zone, doing the same thing, staying safe all the time? Or do you want to get out of it? You won't know how it is till you do it, until you get right back up to the plate. That's what this is about. You're not alone. You know that. You might just feel alone. We're never alone. We're not. And I'm here to encourage you. But as you know, you're going to have to do the work. It's going to be rewarding, nourishing. Tell me where you're at. moving one small step today if it has to be a small one, or you can take a leap. It's your choice. All right, now I'm getting into that cold plunge. I'm gonna do some breath work first. See you on the flip side. 29.2. That's pretty damn cold. We'll see how this goes. It's not rushing so much there, so I might be able to not be, I don't know, swum away. All right, I did it. As you could see, it was a gradual progression. I would love to just jump in one of these days, but it's just not working out yet. I haven't made myself do it yet. But the gradual progression, when I played back the tape, I can see that actually the submersion that I was up to here with, I almost did for 2 minutes actually. I went for 1 minute and 40 something seconds. So that's really good. And then all in all, I got into the water, so it was less than 4 minutes altogether. I really love this spot actually. I used to come and paint here a lot in the last couple years, but this time where I really got into the water, that area is sandy and it felt amazing on my feet and all that. So I'm probably gonna go back to that spot again. This might also be a really cool spot. I like this campsite a lot too. Anyways, awarenesses. I was doing a couple rounds of the breath work before, and it's actually a little bit challenging for me because my nose is feeling like, I don't want to say like it's burning, but I think it's really because I'm at a very high altitude where I'm at in Colorado. And every day I've been trying to put some jojoba oil in there so that it's not so dry. But the interesting thing is, once I was in there, it stopped. I don't know if it was like a focusing thing that I wasn't focused on it, but I also was focused, while I was focused on my breath, an interesting thing that happened is I feel like I was doing the Wim Hof breath work, that style that I'm working in, really well, much better than before I was in the water. It's like things just kind of slowed down a bit and the breath work came much more seamlessly, which is very interesting. So I'm wondering if there's others have made comments about that on the web. I feel like, well, as I do this, it's just breaking the ice. It's bringing me a little bit out of my shell in a way that is a bit cringe, but I'll deal. So thanks for joining, and I'll see you in day 7 tomorrow. Mwah.